1 John chapter 4 verse 19 is a powerful verse found in the New Testament book of 1 John. It reads, "We love because he first loved us." This concise yet profound statement encapsulates a foundational truth of the Christian faith. Our capacity to love others is rooted in and flows from the love that God has first shown us. To truly grasp the depth and significance of this verse, it is essential to explore its historical and theological context, as well as its practical implications for believers today. The book of 1 John was written by the Apostle John. The book of 1 John was written by the Apostle John as a pastoral letter to a community of believers facing various challenges and doctrinal issues. Believers, encouraging them to walk in the light and abide in the love of God. In the immediate context of 1 John 4:19, John emphasizes the importance of love in the lives of believers. He asserts that the source and motivation for our love is rooted in the fact that God loved us first. This verse highlights the initiating nature of God's love and the transformative power it holds in our lives. The verse acknowledges that God's love is the primary initiator and foundation of all true love. Before we could even comprehend or respond to God's love, He loved us first. His love is not a response to our actions or merits, but flows out of His very nature as a loving and merciful God. It is rooted in His eternal character and is independent of our deserving it. The depth of God's love is most powerfully demonstrated through the person and work of Jesus Christ. In Romans 5:8, the Apostle Paul writes, "But God demonstrates His own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us." This sacrificial act reveals the extent to which God's love goes to bring us into a restored relationship with Him. The love of God is not merely an abstract concept or an emotional sentiment. It is a dynamic force that brings about transformation in our lives. As we experience and embrace God's love, it changes our hearts, minds, and attitudes. His love has the power to heal our brokenness, free us from guilt and shame, and fill us with a sense of worth and purpose. God's love enables us to move from a self-centered existence to a selfless and compassionate way of life. It empowers us to love others genuinely, sacrificially, and unconditionally. It molds our character, aligns our values with His, and shapes our actions. God's love transforms us from the inside out, making us more like Christ. The verse affirms that our love for others is a response to the love we have received from God. When we encounter and understand the depth of God's love, it naturally overflows from our hearts towards others. We are called to love others with the same selfless, sacrificial, and unconditional love that God has shown us. The Apostle Paul, in his letter to the Ephesians, describes the love of Christ as the model for our own love. He writes, "Be imitators of God, therefore, as dearly loved children, and live a life of love, just as Christ loved us and gave Himself up for us as a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God." Ephesians 5:1-2. Our love for others becomes a tangible expression of our gratitude for God's love towards us. Throughout the book of 1 John, the Apostle emphasizes the connection between love and our relationship with God. He asserts that those who truly know God will demonstrate His love through their actions. Our love for others becomes an evidence of our genuine faith and our experience of God's love in our lives. In 1 John 4-7, John writes, "Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God." Our ability to love others is not solely dependent on our efforts, but is a direct result of our connection with God. As we abide in Him, His love flows through us, impacting our relationships and interactions with others. The verse echoes the commandment of Jesus to love one another as He has loved us, John 13:34. It is not merely a suggestion or an optional virtue, but a commandment that is foundational to the Christian faith. Jesus, when asked about the greatest commandment, replied, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment." Our love for others is an essential part of our obedience to God. It reflects our surrender to His lordship in our lives and our desire to align our actions with His will. Love becomes the guiding principle for our thoughts, words, and deeds. In conclusion, 1 John chapter 4 verse 19 reminds us that our ability to love others is rooted in the love that God has first shown us. It emphasizes the initiating nature of God's love and the transformative impact it has on our ability to love others. As we embrace and share His love, we become instruments of transformation, reconciliation, and witness to the world.